Okay, so we are on the second step of the life balance ritual. So if you are joining this for the first time, I'm Emma Lavelle. I'm the host of the Life Atelier podcast and also the Life Atelier Magic Space, which is our coaching studio, and it includes the garden party, which is like the community for this podcast, and it has some events, free resources in there. Then we've also got the Life Balance Coaching Studio, which is focused on teaching you the tools to take control of your energy and time by harnessing joie de vivre and ambition. And then there's also the 3 Day Week Club, which is for people who work for themselves, creatives, entrepreneurs, so that you can build a 3 day week and then protect it, right? Very important. So if you are just joining, there are two videos or two podcasts, wherever you're listening to, watching this, that come before this. Also, my camera does that. That's just a thing. Okay, so there we go. It's not your eyes, it's my camera. So we have already talked about this week, this thing here, which I'm just showing you. So if you're listening on the podcast, there is a triangle on a piece of paper. I'm going to pretend that it's deeply professional if you're listening and you can't actually see it. And in the center, we have the word want and project. So what we do is we start by getting clear on what you want, creating that vision, and then we give it a project name, right? So we create this thing that's really exciting, it's something that you really want, and then we make it feel doable by turning it into a project instead of this, like, if I don't get it, my life will be ruined and I'll never be happy. Okay, so we make the impossible achievable, routine, inevitable, just by turning them into little projects. It's magical. I love it. Then at the top, we've got step one, which is creating space. So yesterday's guide was all about how to do that, how to create space, why to do it. Today, we're going to talk about investing in yourself, and then tomorrow will be activating belief. Now, investing in yourself is super important. And as I mentioned yesterday, anytime that we're trying to achieve something, trying to do something, and we haven't got it, or we've got it, but it doesn't feel good, right? This is something that happens very often, is people achieve things and they're like, that was an awful experience. It cost me so much energy. It cost me my happiness and joy that actually I'm not enjoying it now. Or I have this like empty feeling because it's almost like, all right, I got it, and then what? I've had this happen with financial goals where I've been like, oh God, like when I make this much money, everything will feel better, everything will be okay. I just need to make this. And then it will come into my bank account and I'm like, oh, oh, okay. Well, now what? Oh, well, it's gone. It's gone on this. Okay, now I need to do something else. And with professional goals as well. So we have different techniques inside the Life Atelier for how to change that experience. But today we're going to look at making this experience joyful, delightful, so that you can just keep raising the level of your ambitions and your enjoyment of achieving them. Like that's the whole point of the Life Atelier's ambition meets joie de vivre, the joy of being alive, right? They don't need to be in competition with each other. They're not in competition with each other. The more we enjoy life, the more joy we experience, the more we create the safety to be even more ambitious, right? And I just want you to think about like, approaching a really difficult task, like a big mountain to climb, and like imagining that you're on your own and you haven't got the right shoes and you lost your map and you're not quite sure how you're going to get onto the other side, but you sort of said you'd do it, so now you think you have to. Versus going with a bunch of friends, knowing that on the other side, a friend of mine was talking to me about this weekend and saying that he has the hotel already booked. He has like really nice shoes, really comfortable shoes, nice snacks, a nice restaurant ready for getting to the other side, and goes with friends and plans these exciting points where they're going to pause and enjoy it as they go. And that's the strategy that I tend to use in my own life and with my coaching as well. Okay. But it's not accidental. The more you prioritize joy, the more you prioritize achieving your ambitions, fueled from joy, fueled from the experience, the easier, the more flow they become. The more flow they become, the more flow there is. So, investing in yourself. The very first concept we want to think about is your relationship with yourself. So, anything that you do, right? This may sound obvious, you are going to do it. You are going to do it. Now, I'm highlighting that because very often we think that someone else is going to do it. Okay, we think if we hire a certain coach, we pay for a course, we follow a plan, we buy a book, the bloody 5 a.m. club, the miracle morning. Ugh. Do you know how many people? I used to be one of them, thought that waking up at 5 a.m. was how you created results. But it is not. You create your results. And you create your results, you create the life that you have, whether you wake up at 5 a.m., because actually that is something that works for your body. You want to watch the dawn come up. You're intentionally choosing that time. You're going to sleep at 9 p.m. Or you're someone who, like me, realized that, okay, the appeal of the 5 a.m. is that it's quiet and it's distraction free. How can I create that at 11 a.m.? How can I create that at 3 p.m.? Oh, I can put my phone on silent. Oh, I can go have a nice walk in nature and create some headspace and then go to a quiet place, right? It's not about the 5 a.m., it's you. As soon as you realize that you are the person that is the same, the constant in everything in your life, that you are responsible for the failures, but that also means you're responsible for the successes, the faster you can start to tweak all of those elements. Now, imagine that you are going on an adventure, right? I like to call this sort of engaging co-pilot and adventure mode. And you know that, right, it is you are going on this adventure, but right now, your co-pilot, which is also you, is nervous, they're hesitant, maybe they're not packing things that you want for the journey. Like you've said to them, okay, we're going on a long journey. And I think about when I went from Madrid to Toulouse, December, we're almost there, it's October, at the end of October, and I'm starting to remember this time last year when I was thinking about moving to Toulouse. And I'll be honest, I just put Toulouse in Google Maps and started driving from Madrid. And it was only when I was in the Pyrenees and I'd had this like 2 hours of driving through the Spanish side and being like, oh, look at this beautiful autumn and everything's so magical and I can feel the sun. And I'd hopped out and I'd had coffee with people like in the different villages and I was photographing it. And as I was climbing, it started to get colder and colder and icier and more grey. And I had this like slow realization of the clothes that I was wearing and realizing, I hadn't packed a waterproof coat. Oh, I don't actually have waterproof trainers. Like, if the car breaks down, what is the number that I call? Like, what do I do? And I realized that while I'd been like a very optimistic, cheerful co-pilot to myself, I hadn't actually thought of any of the things that would happen along the journey. All good, updated it. The second time I did that trip, I packed things into the car. I even got like Rita's like winter coat ready and I put things where I could easily access them. I checked the oil. I got the number ready in case there was an emergency. I got so there are all these things like when we start to learn how to engage adventure mode and co-pilot mode, and we realize that available to us is that enthusiastic co-pilot, but also is that enthusiastic and grounded and prepared co-pilot. And there's also the co-pilot that is just complaining in the back. You get to choose which of those co-pilots you want to be to yourself, right? I hope that makes sense. And the reason for that physiologically, we talked about previously how to work with your brain and the different objectives of your primal brain, not wanting to do anything new, not wanting to spend energy, and then your conscious brain, your logical brain, wanting to be happy, wanting to experience fulfillment, right? One of the ways that we can do that is to prioritize switching. When we go into adventure mode, we have things that slow us down. So fear can feel like very like friction, and it can feel like it physically in your body is like pulling you back, pulling you away. We can switch that to excitement. Okay, and excitement is motivating. And if you just think about, the idea of even like when you were a kid, okay, and when you went to the dentist, like my dentist used to have stickers in the drawer. So even though I was a bit scared, as soon as I started to think about the stickers in the drawer, it went to excitement. And I was like, okay, let's get on with it. And in fact, the training, now I think about it, it almost worked a little too well to the point that when I was 15, I think, or 16, I think I was 15, and I was getting teeth removed for my braces because I was like a little piranha. I had so many teeth and I had to have 8 removed. And the dentist said to me, okay, so normally we would do like oh no, it was 4 removed. And he said, normally we do 2 on one day and then a couple later. And I literally had that sticker in my head and I was like, take them all out. I am ready. And then I lost 2 teeth on the top, 2 teeth on the bottom, and basically had a completely numb mouth and was just dribbling for 24 hours. And it was, very unhelpful. But you can see how we train ourselves to start to do that, to start to switch from fear to excitement, and we make that automatic. This is really important for tomorrow when we activate belief. We also want to notice judgment. Judgment acts as brakes when we judge ourselves, right? So if you imagine if I'd found myself like on that point about to go through the tunnel from Spanish Pyrenees to the French Pyrenees, and I'd started to say like, you idiot, you fucking idiot. Can't believe you didn't bring the right trainers. What the hell? When I got onto the other side, which was extremely icy and really quite scary for someone that's not used to this and was in their little city car and had driven past all of the signs saying, have you changed your tires? And I was like, changed my what? Why? Have you put chains on your tires? And then like the avalanche shelter in my little like tiny, I think I had like a little like cashmere hoodie on and these like little sandal, these trainers that were breathable for Spanish weather with no rain. Okay, rather than judging myself, which would have meant that I then didn't feel good at all and I was moving myself into fight or flight whilst driving down through those mountains, I just decided like I'm going to replace that judgment with curiosity. Oh, isn't this interesting? Oh, look, there are avalanche shelters. I wonder, given the information that I have, what would be the best way to get to the avalanche shelter? Okay, let's make a list in my head of the things that I'm going to prepare for the drive back or next time I do this. Okay, so judgment slows us down. We invest in ourselves and our self-belief and being the co-pilot that we want to be to ourselves, replacing that with curiosity. Okay. Now, 5 concepts for you to invest in yourself. These are golden. These are inside the membership, but I'm going to share them with you. Number 1, the concept of rupture and repair. So I first heard about this in a book that I love, which is called The Book You Wish Your Parents Had Read by Philippa Perry, who is a child psychologist. She's amazing. She's astonishing. And she essentially says that when you are a parent, you need to just drop this idea that you are not going to hurt your children or mess them up in some way, right? You are going to rupture that relationship. It is impossible not to do that because you are human, they are human, we live in a human world. Now, what we then do is we repair that relationship. That is the thing that will determine if your child heals or not. It's the same as trauma. I remember discovering that trauma can be healed, and that is life-changing. Okay, that means everything. So when we have relationships with anyone, rather than just avoiding rupturing them, which is impossible, it's perfectionistic thinking, what we want to think about is, I am someone who repairs. When I damage a relationship with others or with myself, I repair it. I rebuild that trust. Different tools to do that inside the Life Atelier if you want to learn how to do them, but you can also just think about that concept of how am I rebuilding, how am I repairing that trust with myself so that I can be the most amazing co-pilot. Number 2, I've written here, monkeys and bananas. Okay, so when we invest in ourselves, what we're also doing is investing in the skill of wanting. I talked about this in the first training, but what I really want you to think about is how wanting is a skill. And if you are currently not clear on what you want, it isn't because you don't know what you want. You do, I promise you. But you have experienced something that has taught you it is not safe to vocalize what you want, not even internally. Now, this is something that came up in one of my one-to-one coaching sessions this week. Very often, people will have one-to-one coaching and then they'll say, oh my God, I didn't even realize that. I've never said that out loud before. I've never even said that to myself. Right. And I will give you an example of this from my own life. I was in a relationship for almost 9 years. And for the first 7 years, I would say to people, I don't know if I want children. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I want kids. Yeah, I don't know. Climate change, all of that. I don't know, And I did. It's just I had a partner who didn't want kids. right? Or they said like, maybe they would if I wanted them. Great, right? Now, rather than face that reality and the fear of losing that partner or losing that potential life, I just pretended to myself, and I really believed it, right? I really believed that I didn't know that. Okay. But actually, it was very, very deep down. So the reason I've written monkeys and bananas is because there is a horrible study with monkeys where the monkeys would have a banana in the cage, and when one of them touched it, there'd be like a little, like an electric shock. And so what happened is the monkeys, this is not exactly what happened, this is how I remember it, but the monkeys would then start to support each other. Or maybe they like zapped other monkeys when one of the monkeys touched the banana, like absolutely horrible. But essentially, they got to the point where none of the monkeys would allow each other to touch the banana because they were all scared of it. They thought it was bad, even though they wanted the banana. And they gradually replaced all of the monkeys in this cage, and they didn't put any kind of punishment. So there was just a banana in the cage. Any of the monkeys could have taken the banana, but they all stopped themselves from trying to take the banana, even though none of them had ever experienced anything bad. And the banana wasn't doing anything. It was absolutely fine. They could have all had the banana, right? So this is what happens to us. We learn through having our authenticity. It's just I hate it. This is the society that we live in right now. There is a video from Gabor Mate about authenticity versus attachment. I reference it a lot. If I do forget to put it under this video, just go to YouTube and put authenticity versus attachment, Gabor Mate. Life Atelier members, it's inside the platform. I tag people regularly. Just really watch it. So what happens is we express something, we express a want, okay? And one of our caregivers, maybe they actually slap us down for it, metaphorically or literally, or maybe we just think they are, right? That's really important. Sometimes little baby us just misunderstands things, right? And they perceive something, because it is so important for us to stay with our caregivers for survival, that better safe than sorry, right? Our brains have this 80% negativity bias. As we become adults, that is crippling to us, okay? We need to express ourselves. We need to get out what it is that we want. We need to connect with people for survival. So right now, if you think you don't know what you want, I promise you, you do. The next step is investing in yourself, creating that space so that you can start to practice wanting it. You don't even need to worry about how you're going to get it, right? Right now, you just need to create that safety to start to say, like, okay, what if I did want something like this? Are there other people who want this? What is it about them that's similar, okay, to me and them? And it might be you start with, I'm a human, right? There's just a basic human need. Okay, number 3, the mental energy. The mental energy and cost of doing something new and going on an adventure, right? We start to think of life in terms of these different adventures. If you currently can't visualize the physical cost of the energy, what I want you to think about is, number 1, I believe this is true, but I do admit I intended to Google it to check before sharing it. I believe our brain uses up the most energy of anything in our body, right? Your brain is using all of the energy, okay? This is why it's so important to regulate our nervous system, because when you go into fight or flight, all the energy gets pushed into like running, okay, getting ready to run for a short term, for a short period. So what we want to think about is, when we're doing something new, it is going to cost a lot of energy. Calories, right? Calories are a measure of energy. If you don't believe me, what I want you to, or not even if you don't believe me, if you're like, okay, intellectually I understand that, but like, I don't really get, like, what do I do with that? I want you to think about when you've done an exam, okay? And the energetic cost of doing that exam and what happened to you. And think about, okay, so maybe like, I know for me, I used to think about like having a banana. Yes, a free banana. Or peanut butter, or, you know, doing something to get my brain ready before doing the thing, okay? So that's what we want to think about. When you are doing something new, meet yourself where you are. If you're currently at the point where you can't even vocalize what you want, or you're so stressed and you're so overwhelmed, you've got anxiety and you've got racing thoughts, your only job right now is to like make those little micro tweaks of getting to sleep 10 minutes earlier, reducing a little bit of anxiety. Maybe it's putting your phone on airplane for a couple of seconds, then for a couple of minutes. Maybe it's getting outside, right? That's your only job. And from that place, once you've started to rebalance and you've been investing in yourself and you've been increasing that and normalizing it, then you can start to look at things like preloading the investment in yourself before you do things. I put a video on Instagram of how I did that with Rita, my dog, a couple of days ago, where I knew that she was going to have stressful things coming up. I no longer try to avoid the stressful things. I prioritize her building her resilience, just as I do for me, just as I do for my clients. Okay. So she was going to be meeting some alpacas. She does not like animals. She's very scared of them. So we spent an afternoon just being in grass, sniffing, her watching things, really regulating her nervous system, investing in her feeling as safe as possible, ready for the triggers. Okay. But right now, that might not be where you're at. Meet yourself where you're at. Number 4, you cannot change your life if you're pretending to be someone else. I heard this on a call this morning and oh my God, I loved it. So if you think about the energy cost of pretending to be something else or someone else, whether that is someone who's got it all together, right? Those of us that have our own businesses, sometimes it's like herding cats. Sometimes sometimes I feel like having my own business feels like this beautiful, linear, connected thing. I'm my business is me, everything's wonderful. And sometimes it's like there's lots of marbles rolling around and all the marbles are moving and I'm in the middle like, oh God, marketing, clients, finances, taxes, platform, tech, right? Both things are true. What we can do is notice that even when there are lots of marbles running around, we can rebalance them, right? There is always a center of gravity. If we stop moving things, everything will fall into that center of gravity. And the image I have here, when we're pretending to be someone else, we're pretending to be someone that like has it all together, right? It's like the wizards in Harry Potter when they're pretending to be muggles, and they've got all like the wrong clothes and they're trying to like walk normally and they're trying to like blend in and like it's the same as when you go to a foreign country, right? Or I think about it when I was mostly living in the countryside and then I went to the city and I had to use the metro and I was like, how does this card work? Oh, everybody's walking really quickly. Okay, try to walk at the same speed as them. It's exhausting, right? It's exhausting when we actually just say, do you know what? This is me. This is where I am. I have no idea how the metro works anymore. Or when I go to the countryside, I don't know if this is a one-way road or not. I don't know what to do when there's a sheep on the road. I mean, stop, but do I go around the sheep? Do I wait for the sheep to cross? Right? We get to just get that energy back because when we're pretending to be someone else, our energy is scattered all over the place. And at that point, we're investing in other people's visions, other people's ideas of how to do things. We don't want to do that. We want to come back to invest in ourselves and being a co-pilot with ourselves. And then you can think about, do you want someone else who's co-piloting themselves in the car with you? Okay, or not. Otherwise, we've just got scattered energy. So we just like bring the energy back. And so finally, number 5, what we can do is we can just use this little trick of saying, I am someone who invests in myself. Right, and I want you to do that right now. Just pause. Number 1, you can see if you've got the video, I'm putting my hands on my heart. So this is a really good way to just like take a big breath and notice, are you able to have like really raggedy breath? I breathe in and be like, because I couldn't breathe in properly. My breathing was coming like really shallow from years of being panicky. Okay, so just notice, where is your breath? Do you feel resilient? Do you feel calm? Do you feel regulated? Do you feel overwhelmed? I'm someone who invests in myself by, and then what comes up? And it might be, I'm someone who invests in myself by giving myself this 20 minutes, half an hour to listen to this podcast, to watch this video, and to think about, okay, if I'm someone who invests in myself, where do I need to turn up the volume and where do I need to turn down the volume, right? If you have been trying to wake up early and failing, is that because you're not going to sleep earlier? Okay, so is the next part of that, I'm someone who invests in myself by going to sleep earlier? Or is it I'm someone who invests in myself by not setting the alarm in the morning, by sleeping in later while I rebalance? Just notice what comes up and then start to play and experiment with putting different things after that initial prompt of I am someone who. And I will see you tomorrow for Activate Belief.